Welcome to Midlife Matters. I'm Marie, and each week I'm joined by my friends Julie and Mindy to talk about all the topics keeping women in the middle years up at night. Listeners, today we're talking about when we're in a funk, when we've lost interest in things that usually make us happy, or when we feel like we have nothing left to give. Join us as we share what's wearing us out and what we're trying to do about it. Let's get started. Listeners, today we're talking about when we're in a funk, when we've kind of lost interest in things that usually make us happy, or when we feel like we have nothing left to give. It's the dog days of summer when we're recording this, and honestly, I sort of feel as dry and lifeless as the ground outside. Is that just me, Julie and Mindy? Are you guys feeling a little bit like that too?
Oh, no, you nailed it on the head. Dry and it matches our weather and our, I think this is my least favorite month anyway, just because summer feels over, but it's not fall, and fall is actually a long way off. And it's just a kind of an eerie in-between stage. And I just feel like I'm even in a weirder place than I have been the last 7 months, because of what's going on in our life. I just think so many people right now that I know have really hard, painful things in their life, like everywhere I turn. And then if that's not enough, it seems like the world is literally unraveling in front of our eyes.
Right.
Yeah.
And I just had surgery a week from today. And I think I've been, in that recovery, like when I can't be out doing stuff, I just get down, So I'm just ready to get out.
Yeah.
I know. I'm definitely feeling it too. I totally agree with Julie. You hit the nail on the head. I kind of thought once the kids got back in school, like my life would just be perfect. Like I would be fully energetic and doing all the things, that I wanted to do and just living the best life. And I just feel like I'm tired, exhausted, reeling, like still trying to help each of my children get settled in the new seasons that they're in. It was just today, like the kids had been in school over a week and I was finally able to go to a workout class today. And I was like, it's time. I mean, it is time. And in the middle of the workout class, I'm like, I don't have to answer my phone if somebody calls me this 1 hour. And it was so freeing. It was like mental therapy to think I'm not available right now. Cause I think we all feel like we've been so available to everyone. And like Julie mentioned, you turn on the news or you read the news or you get on social media and you regret it immediately because it's not all happy butterflies. I would like to read just silly memes and see pretty pictures. And then I'm seeing these hard things and I'm like, wow, that's not helpful.
No, no. And I kind of Googled like, how many other people feel this way? Because I always like to know, am I the only one? And this was in Forbes. I don't know, is Forbes a magazine or a newspaper a couple days ago? But it said many people feel exhausted, helpless, unable to control their own lives. Each day seems to get increasingly harder. There's unrelenting stress without any light at the end of the tunnel. And it's easy to become overwhelmed and feel burned out. And prolonged stress, which we all know, and anxiety leads us to emotional, mental, and physical exhaustion. And I think we feel exhausted. Like, I know I feel tired, but sleep isn't really going to fix it. Like,
right. Right.
Sometimes I do take a nap just because I can't think anymore. Like, I have to stop thinking.
I think that's something I thought of too, is I'm living in my head a whole lot.
Right.
Like even when I appear to be resting, I'm not. I'm running scenarios. I'm feeling very scattered and thinking of 100 different things and different people. And am I being a good friend? Am I being what I'm supposed to be here? What's going on in this crazy world? Why can't I seem to make things better? It's just like a loop going through my head.
Right. I feel the same thing. I can't really make headway in any one direction because I feel like I'm trying to do so many directions all simultaneously. And so it's just nothing feels restful or peaceful. Lord provides that as I truly seek him, but it is not my natural state. I'm typically not this type of person, but I can't seem to get out of it.
Mm-hmm. And I will say that I do tend to have some of these melancholy, difficult feelings when I go through transitions. So the start of a school year is a transition. And even though, like Mindy said, we joked a couple weeks ago how, yay, everyone's going back to school, it still is a transition and we still have to process through feelings. But usually I'm just processing through kind of my own feelings and not the whole world also having terrible feelings at the same time. Like I feel kind of stuck.
Right.
Yeah. And I think you like to, if you have something going on in your life, you like to look around and say, well, at least that's going okay. That's going well. And it feels like there's not a place for your eyes to land anywhere where something's normal or certain or stable. So that.
Right. And I don't know about you, Marie, but it's not only just this transition of like school starting back, but our roles continue to change with our older children. And I don't know about you ladies, but I feel like I talk to my older children all the time and we text all the time and their problems are bigger and harder and, more gut wrenching than when they were younger. And so even though they don't live in my home, it's amazing how much time I really do spend, invest, pray for, think about my older kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When your kids are younger, sometimes you get to this magical place in life where everybody's happy at the same time. And you're kind of like, you can kind of put them in these happy little scenarios and then you can step back and be happy.
It's true.
But as your kids get older and you have less and less control over what's going on in their lives, but they still come to you and say all that's wrong, but you can't really fix any of it. Now you can't step back and be happy either.
I know.
Well, do you think this is more of a mom thing? Because the other night, this is just kind of a tiny example, but a single friend texted me about something that had happened to her. And it was just really unfair. And it was just a form of rejection. And she just shared it with me. And John saw my reaction as I read it. And he said, why is this affecting you so much? And I said, because it's just not right. It's wrong. She doesn't deserve that. And he said, but it's not yours to fix. And he said, feel for her, but don't take that on personally as something you have to fix. And I just blew up and said, I'm tired of having to feel bad for yet another person. I'm not tired of feeling bad. I'm tired of having to feel bad.
Yes.
For yet another person. And so I don't know if men are able to just compartmentalize that more or what, because I don't know. I found I was taking on yet another person's problem as something I needed to do something about.
Or you couldn't be happy if she wasn't happy.
Yeah, it just made me kind of down.
I was just talking to Abby about this and we were talking about the, what is it? Like there's 9 different personality styles. Why can't I think of the name of it? Enneagram. Sorry. Yeah. So we were talking about the Enneagram with some of her friends and we were talking about how some people are more empathetic, like they're empaths. So if you tell them your burden, they take it on instead of like trying to talk to you through it or being sympathetic or empathetic. They actually take it on and carry it. Like some people can't handle it. They don't know how to let it go again. I do think this is something we can learn through. I don't know about you guys, but I look at my own behavior. Like when Abby was in 8th grade and struggling with our transition and with middle school and stuff like that, like I was crying with her all the time. It ruined my whole day. Well, now with my 4th child, with Nathan, he's in 8th grade. He's struggling with our transition. I'm not crying anymore. It bothers me, but I'm more able to know like, okay, like it's a season, it's going to get better. Like, so I do think that that's something maybe we can grow in.
Yeah, I think you're able to see the bigger picture, like pull back and not be right down in it with him. You can see the other side.
Yeah. Well, from experience that he will get through it. It can get better. The first time you go through it, you're like, this is a never ending tunnel. Right. I don't know when we'll come out of it.
Right.
But the second
you don't know
time
that you'll be okay.
The second time you have some history to draw from.
Not like, oh yeah, Abby was fine. You'll be fine. No. I'm kidding. It's still hard, but it's not like devastating my entire day like it did. I pray for him and I give it to the Lord. I'm like, Lord, I need you to move in this because I do not have the strength to fix it, nor can I. Even if I had the strength, I can't fix it.
Right. Well, listeners, I bet a lot of you can relate to the things that we're talking about today. And so we actually were just kind of feeling dry, even in the topic department. And we always feel like listeners enjoy our honest conversations. So we're just having an honest conversation today. So if you're feeling like, hey, I really could jump in here at any point and share mine, come and find us on social media after you listen to this episode and tell us how dry you are too, because I think we're all feeling that way. But what are some of the things that you are processing or working through right now? Things that are impacting your mood? And Mindy, you mentioned your youngest son is struggling. And I think as moms, we all can relate to how much that would impact your mood.
It does. It very much does. And it impacts his siblings, like none of us want him to struggle. And then but I also know like my older kids, our move affected them, even though they're not in our home. And so it's been an interesting situation because everyone's excited, that Dad's job is great and we love it here. And we have a church home and we've made friends, but it doesn't solve all of the mental, emotional stress and trauma that it takes to transition again.
Right.
New schools, new people, new processes. That's a lot to deal with. So that's certainly one thing that I'm trying to work through. And I can't seem to get myself in a good routine because the whole summer I moved and I'm telling you, my goal was to make sure the kids are settled. I'm like, whatever I need to do to help them, to help Bryce with his job, to help get our house settled, and I just am like, well, the boys go to school and I'm like, wait a minute, what am I supposed to fix now? Like, I don't even know where I am. Trying to even create space. Like I said, going to workout class this morning was so mentally therapeutic, spiritually therapeutic to be able to say, I am not available to other people for this hour. And then it's amazing how that one, I'll call it good decision, positive decision, helped lead into being able to come home and take time out to have a quiet time. Because my day has started so early with the boys. I'm not ready to have a quiet time at 5 a.m. So I'm like, after workout class, I come home, but it's amazing how that one decision led to the next and helped my day so much. But I don't seem to have the motivation to take care of myself very well right now. And I'm really trying. And I'm like, I know what I should do. Why am I not doing it?
Malaise. Because we're all stuck.
Yes, I need help.
Fatigue.
I messed up.
I think at this stage of life, we're not as tired physically. We're tired emotionally.
Uh-huh.
And I think that's more tiring. I would always rather be tired physically, like after a great hike or a long vacation, or that kind of tired feels good.
It does.
But emotional fatigue does not.
No.
Like you said, Marie, you can't seem to get rest for it.
Yeah. Well, are you processing anything else other than your move and your kids starting school, Mindy? I know you're trying to get back into routine. Or do you feel like there's other things that you're working through?
Settling my house for some reason I'm trying not to stress about it, but I have rearranged things multiple times. I've bought things, returned things multiple times. And so
good for you.
Before we sat down today, I rearranged some things. Like I moved 2 chairs to the front room and I moved anyways. So it's actually fun, but I have to tell myself don't go buying anything until you figure out how to live in this house. Cause I've already removed my eat-in kitchen furniture and put a couch there and a coffee table. And I love
need
it so much
picture
more.
of this.
I do this in every house and I'm like, why don't I? We never sit at the eat-in kitchen. We sit at the kitchen island. And if everyone has come over, we'll sit on the back porch. Or if we really are having a formal dinner, we'll go in the dining room. So I'm like, why did I do this? I know I want a couch in the eat-in kitchen. Like that's just how we live. So anyway, settling my house, and then just my older children, like my daughter being newly married, starting college year, and just helping her navigate life, this new season, this new role for her. And knowing that I'm more in the background than her husband, but also still being available. So that's kind of new. And then my son Grant, like he's transitioning, and like the Lord is working in his life, and I just keep surrendering. Like I can't tell him what to do. Not that I even know what to tell him, but he's constantly on my mind, and I just, it's these adult kids too. Like it's awesome and it's hard.
Yeah. I'm sure that's comforting to other listeners to hear too, because you think that your adult kids, once they're out, you won't spend that much time thinking about them, but sounds like you always do. And who knows? I'm sure you do think less and less. I highly doubt my parents sit around still obsessing over me, but I don't know.
Why not, Marie? I mean,
maybe they do.
Why doesn't she make better decisions?
She's like, they're like, where is this podcast going?
Right. Well, Julie, what are some of the things that you are like trying to get over the hump with? Because I feel like that's kind of what we're trying to do too. Like they might not even be new, but maybe we're just still trying to tread water, getting over the hump of this thing.
Well, the big hump, is obvious. John's cancer. I feel like that kind of trumps everything. And on a good note, I feel like we're in a new phase where things are going really well and kind of routine and stable. The fearful side of me is like, how long will that last? And waiting for the next bump. And I try not to go there, but that's a fight. That's a constant fight for me.
And that makes you emotionally tired too.
Yeah, always trying to like get your thoughts right and aligned right, with proper thinking, and that takes work, and it does for me anyway.
Yeah.
But as the more that John improves, though, that has gotten easier. I find myself, just thinking he's well, like we're just kind of living life, and so there's that, and just there's other things I can't even talk about, but it's just people that are hurting and people that are really struggling, and just, like even with adult children, you think, oh, if I could just tell them what to do, or like, but I'm kind of at a place where like, I wouldn't even know that I know what to do. Like, who am I to say that I know what is best for your life? I mean, there are certain things, certain things that are non-negotiable, but it's, just sitting back and watching and letting go, which seems to be the theme for the last 10 years. It's like it doesn't end.
Yeah.
So just lots of turmoil and uncertainty and hurt.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and then just like the whole situation in the world makes me get really philosophical, and I start to go down that rabbit hole, and like I don't watch the news much anymore because it's just more than I can handle. But lately, what's been happening, you can't escape. Like looking at the news with what's going on in Afghanistan, and then the earthquake in Haiti. I mean, they haven't gotten over the last one, and then the tropical storm, and it's just like to think about the brutality that's about to hit those women and little girls in Afghanistan it's just sickening. And our world is just so full of evil, and I think we have to acknowledge that. I'm not sure how many modern people really think of like an invisible spiritual evil force in the world, like working. And, look at what humans do to each other. It's just horrible. But that is a reminder that Jesus is at work, and he has a plan for that evil. And while it may be running rampant now, it's not going to forever. And I think it can be easy to look around and forget that.
Yes.
Like it's just hard to reconcile sometimes, and you just feel so much sadness for people that a lot of them are Christians, in Afghanistan. I read that that's the second fastest growing church in the world. Really? Underground church, obviously, but there are no church buildings, but so
That's very sobering. And if you are someone like Mindy was talking about, although I don't even think that I am a 9 or whatever one is the empath, I can't look at world events and then just separate my emotions. I'm not able to just look at that and then go on about my life without it getting me down in some form or fashion. Like, it does impact my mood. And
yes,
it sounds like it's kind of impacting your mood too, Julie. Even though you try to avoid the news, you can't escape it.
Yeah, like that picture of people clinging to a moving plane will never leave my mind, you know?
Yes.
How desperate they must be that was worth the risk, you know?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And then I don't know, it kind of just makes me get more philosophical. And then I kind of think of this bigger picture, like how it just seems like we in America are so self-focused, like we've really turned to self, and it doesn't seem like there's a lot in the world that transcend ourselves. Like, a lot of people don't think that there's a God, and or not even like that our country as a whole is something that transcends our individual self. And I don't mean I mean country in the right place, not like country substituted for the kingdom of God. I think that has caused a lot of problems too, but country in its right place. And there just seems to be no higher good other than the individual anymore. And I don't know, I think that's causing a lot of problems. Like, you know, the suicide rate is high. Like, if there's nothing to die for, there's nothing to live for some people. And that makes me sad. Like, I just don't like the way things are going in the whole world. And that's kind of an American feature, is individualism. I mean, that's how that was kind of from the very beginning, but I don't know that it's serving us well.
Yeah.
You know,
those images and things that you're talking about are very sobering. And I don't know that you can look at that and look at what's coming for some countries and people groups and think that there's not an evil at work.
Yeah. And that suffering is part of all of our lives. Like, you know, when something bad happens, like John's diagnosis, it's so easy to say, why me? And then when you look at what's going on in Afghanistan and Haiti, it kind of changes your question to, why not me? You know? Like, it's coming for all of us. Like, suffering is a part of living in this world. So how am I going to handle it? You know? And I guess when I think about individualism, I just think if you're living totally for yourself, suffering never fits in. How could that be good? You know? But when you allow it to, when we allow it to transcend us, then that's where it has meaning. And I think that's what the whole question of life is. Like, what does this mean? You know? Why am I suffering? What does it all mean? And I think when people don't have that meaning, that's when despair sets in. That's when people lose hope.
Yeah. Although, I mean, all three of us would claim the name of Christ and say we're Christians, and we still feel despair, and we still have dry seasons, and we still feel emotional upheaval and feel like we don't have things to give. Now, we do know where to look, and I think that's the key that you're trying to get at. Yeah.
I think that's when we don't live by our feelings. Like, we have to claim that truth. We have to speak it out loud. We have to read it. We have to be reminded of what the truth really is, because feelings are real and should be attended to, but they're not the truth all the time. You know what I mean? They're not. They're not how we should live.
Something that I want to share just along this topic is something that Grant shared with me a couple weeks ago, and I just thought it was really wise, and it was something I needed to hear. And I think that this also applies to all other Christians. So as you hear what I'm going to say, just think about this in the grander scheme of life, I guess. But Grant and I were having a hard conversation. I was saying, like, Grant, I'm really praying. I'm giving you to the Lord, and this just isn't what I thought. This isn't how I thought things should go for you. And I'm concerned. I'm worried. You know, I can't stop thinking about this. He said, Mom, like, I appreciate that you're praying for me, but I need you to know that I am praying too. And I need you to know that the Lord is talking to me too. And I need you to let me go. And I need you to trust that. And I was like, well, shoot. Thought I was the only praying one here. Like, I thought I had a corner on the market. You know what I'm saying? Like, and he said, no, Mom, you have to trust me that I am listening to the Lord and he is telling me what to do and I will follow him. And
that's
I
not the same
that,
message God sent you, Mindy.
Oh my gosh. It's like a slap in the face. I mean, it's kind of rude, don't you think?
A little repetition here.
I'm like, well, whatever.
Yeah.
It gives me comfort though, like, because we do carry these burdens, not just for our children, but for our world. And we have to let go. We cannot change the evil, but we have to trust what God has said and that he will be with us and he will carry us and he loves us and he's good and he's kind and he has offered a way of escape and his Holy Spirit will speak to us. And these problems that are too big for us to grasp, we have to do something with all of our emotions, because I'm mad, I'm sad, I'm full of grief, but we can't carry that because we're not meant to. And so, yes, we do claim the name of Christ. And then we have to answer for ourselves, well, am I going to trust him with the people in Afghanistan? Am I going to trust that he can take care of those people? Will he not provide some supernatural way of escape, or he can move? There is room for him to do so. He is bigger than all of the world leaders. I don't care who you are. And I have to surrender my own emotions to that and know, like, I can't carry the burden for my son, for the people that are hurting. God has to meet them where they are.
Right. And a good reminder from Grant that the Holy Spirit's working in him and you don't have to be able to see it. You can't see his prayers.
Yeah.
But they're happening, you know?
Yes. Apparently it's not up to me.
Right.
But thank you, Grant, for telling me that in such simple terms for me to understand. I needed him to say that.
Well, let's talk a little bit about what it takes to get to that point, because I think a lot of times we say these things and listeners might think, well, that sounds good, but I'm still back here mired. And like, I know that one of the biggest things, and we haven't mentioned it, but one of the biggest things weighing us down is just, I think, as moms, we thought this school year was going to be the one back to normal. This is our third school year in a row that's being impacted by COVID. And it really does a number on your head, and then it does a number on your kids' heads. Like my kids, not my oldest, but my oldest at home, just left for college. He thought his college was going to be normal. It was devastating to him to find out that it was not going to be normal. My girls are in high school and they looked forward to a normal school year. And in our county, we were devastated last week to find out that may not be the case. Like, I think it's really plays mind games with all of us that this is going on. And my first instinct isn't to sit down and pick up my Bible. My first instinct is to anesthetize myself. So first, I need to get everyone out of my space and I need to be alone. And then I need to turn on Netflix and get food and like try to make myself feel nothing before I can even think about trying to work through it. Or I need to I've stopped listening to podcasts because they're too real, and I've moved all over to audiobooks because I want to live in a fictional world. Like, I think we try to first turn it off and avoid looking at it, avoid processing it. Just how do you guys get to even the point where you can work through it? Because I know that the world would not be full of so many addictions and eating disorders and binge watching and all these things if people weren't trying to do these kinds of things.
You go, Julie.
I'm trying to think, guys.
Oh, mercy, Marie.
Well, my initial reaction is to get discouraged and overwhelmed, and because I just want to fix something, like I've already said, anything, just let me fix one thing. And, so then I tend to look for things that I can control somewhat. We've talked about this a lot before, like moving furniture and projects. But I feel like I have all these projects waiting in the wings and I don't even want to do those. Like I have no desire. Like I don't even hardly clean my house anymore. John is cleaning my house now. Like he's doing the laundry. He's doing the dishes. And it's like, oh, what is wrong with me? So like the distraction tactic used to kind of work, but life's kind of taken on a whole new level of suffering this year. So that's not enough anymore. You know, I have to pay attention to my feelings. So I've always liked walking and hiking. And that's part of my funk right now is it's too hot to do that. And I can't even do that. But I don't know, like I hiked a bunch this year and I'm really missing that because that kind of helps me think and process. And if you think about it, hiking on trails always has applications to real life. Like, you follow the path. The only one that's the way forward. You just walk, you know, one step at a time. And sometimes you can only see a few steps ahead and the paths twist and turn. There's obstacles to go over and there's hills and there's valleys and you can't have one without the other. And those are actually the trails I like the most with the hills and valleys, you know. And so there's just always something to help me process what's going on in real life when I'm out there. And I just find too that I need to talk a lot more. So this is a good podcast for me. And I'm learning through the help of a friend and somewhat you, Mindy, to write more because I'm not a writer and it's kind of like a chore for me to write it down. But the other day I was with a friend who really helped me to see something in a new way. And I left feeling so encouraged, like it's going to be okay. Like I'm going to be okay. And so I went home and I wrote it down because I know I'm not going to always feel that way. And I wanted to remember like how I felt and how I got there. Like kind of like I was writing down a pathway to return to that perspective in the future. Like directions, like how to get back here. I think that's helping a lot. Like just getting, if I can't talk, then I can write and get it all out there and hopefully it'll be useful in the future. You know?
Yeah.
I can definitely relate to that need for physical therapy, or not physical therapy. Well, it is kind of physical therapy, but physical activity as mental therapy. And this is just being real, but sometimes I don't even want to sit and read my Bible. So like I'm doing the Bible recap, so I'll just listen to someone else reading it, then listen to the podcast while I walk the dog, because at least I'm making myself get something in my mind. And if I just sit there, my mind's going to wander and I'm going to stare at the page and the words and like I'm not going to, it's like I need my body to be doing something to even take it in, you know?
Yeah, and that is kind of a known thing. Like physical activity can help you process things mentally too. You know, that is a good thing to tie those together.
Yeah. And Mindy, you said that you just finally got back to your workout, and I would think that working out again, I know the fact that I make myself go to burn boot camp every day is mentally good for me. Even if I don't accomplish anything good mentally the rest of the day, at least I did that. You know, like you said, if I could at least start it out right, maybe I'm in a puddle by the end of the day. Yes.
And also, I mean, just doing what you know you should do, which sometimes feels so hard. So like, I just have certain routines in place that help me feel like I'm doing well. And that's making sure the kitchen is clean at night so that when I wake up in the morning, I can walk out and it's ready for a new day. I make my bed in the morning. That's something I do for me so that when I come into my room at night, it's peaceful, you know, but I do know that like I easily run to distractions first. Like you mentioned, Marie, like, can I binge watch something? Can I avoid life essentially, or the things I don't know what to do about? I can tell you that shopping online, that's why I have returned a lot of stuff, because I'm not returning the new Birkenstocks I just ordered, but there's been a lot of rugs and furniture and, you know, my need for settling the house. I'm like, okay, I'm buying things too fast, trying to fill this, you know, like this whole void that I'm feeling with my home, making it settled. I want to hurry. I want to make it settled now. And that's just a picture of all of our emotions. And I'm like, it's not that way. It just takes time. And so I end up returning things and I'm like, I just need to stop spending money because that will not fix anything.
Well, it's so much more fun to think about what rug you should buy than whether your 8th grader had a friend to sit with at lunch. Like, pick which one you want to think about. I'll pick the rug,
I know. My Wayfair app is a lot of fun.
Yes. No, I can totally relate. If I was a shopper, I'm sure I would be shopping,
Yeah.
I'd be out
I will show you my new Birkenstocks when they get here because they're shiny.
Okay.
But no, like, choosing to go work out, choosing to go to bed at a good time at night, choosing to not snack at night when I'm more anxious, running to getting snacky. Like, I know it makes me feel gross and it's an avoidance thing. But yeah, it's amazing how physical activity, like you guys mentioned, really helps change perspective. And even if you can walk outside, get out of your house, get out of your own head and look at nature. Julie, I have been walking on my path and it's like 95 degrees out there. You know how you hear about like hot yoga and stuff? Well, I call it hot walking. And I am like nastified by the time I'm back. And I have to shower. It's so bad, but it's amazing, like the toxins that are released when you sweat it all out. And so and if I can just go outside, even it's just changes my whole mood. But it's hard because every day, like we all mentioned, the weight of this mental stress is so heavy that you don't feel like you can get up, or you don't even want to deal with it, think about it. But just getting outside can help release some of the heavy burden, get some endorphins moving in your body. There is something to be said for physical activity and sweating to really kind of help in that day.
Yeah. And I have to lay off my workouts for 2 weeks, and that's hard.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, that's not.
So I'm trying to walk. I can do that, but that's about it. So,
Well, I was thinking about what you said earlier, Mindy, about how we trust God. Can we trust God with like people in Afghanistan? I think when I don't have any control over something at all, it's real easy for me to say, okay, God, I give you that. But if it's something closer to home, like my kids or a job or anything related to my family or my own personal community where I could do something, I find it harder to say, okay, God, I'll trust you with that. And I think a lot of the things that we are upset about are maybe things that we have little to no control over. I mean, how do we deal with those things that we just have to wait and see about?
Yeah, I just feel like when you said wait, it made me think, life is just always about the wait, isn't it? So I'm trying to just focus more on my reaction because waiting is really hard. But the one thing I've learned is that life is mostly waiting periods with just little blips of clarity and understanding in between. It's not mostly clarity with a few waiting periods. It's just the opposite. And I think the sooner we can learn to live in that, the more content and peaceful we'll be. And it can feel like God is hidden a lot of times. But I read something the other day. It's not like, I think a lot of times I picture God waiting for me on the other side of a struggle. Like he's there, he'll be there, like it'll be okay. But he's right here in the middle too. Like, it's not like I have to get through it and then grab his hand on the other side. He is holding it all through here in the middle. And I think with each new stress in life, I still tend to go through my worrying and my fretting and my attempts to fix it until I come to the end of myself and I surrender again. And I think as I've matured, I still go through that little cycle, but I just get there faster. Hopefully one day that'll just be my go-to thing. But,
you'll probably be 95.
Yeah. On my deathbed.
As long as we're still on this earth, we are still human and struggling. Ironically, we just unpacked our book boxes. They had been gloriously hidden upstairs in our office, and I hadn't seen any boxes really since we moved in. But I have these built-in bookshelves on our downstairs, and one of the front rooms, our piano room. And I'm like, oh, I want this to be like a library piano room. Mm-hmm. So I brought down all of our books that aren't for like when Bryce teaches and stuff. And so it was really therapeutic to look through the books. And I mentioned earlier, my son Nathan was just kind of struggling with our transition, new school, new football team, all that. And we saw all of our Dr. Seuss books come out. And so one of the books that he said, oh, will you read this to me? It was the sweetest thing. I mean, my big 6'2", 8th grade son asked me the last 2 nights to read him Oh, the Places You'll Go by Dr. Seuss. Mm-hmm. And it's a sweet little story. And it talks about the waiting and part of it. And it talks about winning and it talks about losing. And it talks about being ahead of the game and it talks about being behind the game. And it's just amazing. Like it just, it's a neat perspective. And it's funny because some of the pages I noticed, all of the illustrations go along with this book because the pages where it's hard are darker colors. And then you turn the page and it's all bright and cheery, happy colors. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that is so much like life. Reading this book, it's neat, the rhyming, the rhythm of it, the cadence of reading Dr. Seuss, I enjoy. But something, I guess, with journaling, transitioning that thought to journaling, something that I'm doing that helps is there's so much on my mind. I can't always journal out every thought that I have. Like it would take all day. Like it would wear me out, to really just delve into every thought and emotion that I have. However, it has to be mentioned somehow. Like I have to somehow let it go, speak it, whatever. So I know that it's not something I need to tell somebody else. Like I know it's between me and the Lord, these certain things. So I even did it today. I will journal a little bit and then I write things I'm praying and praising for. And it's just bullet points. And it's just like, I'm praying for this person in this person with this. Thank you, God, for this person with this and this. And it's amazing how just making a list and then moving on, I have done something with all of the thoughts in my head because it's not just for my family. It is for close friends. It is for family. It is all the things that go through your mind and the people that are hurting. You have to get it out somehow.
Yeah, so, I did that too, Mindy, because I thought I can't write anymore. This is too much. And so I just made a little list of like new perspectives, like just, like this is how I should think, like a truth that somebody spoke or an idea or a hope, or I just made a little list and I'll know what those mean, but I couldn't write out every thought.
Yeah, we just have way too many thoughts. We need like a little dictaphone or whatever in our head if we were gonna have that.
Transcriber.
Yeah, I definitely also echo Mindy and Julie and encourage people to write things down. A lot of times if you have a loop going through your mind over and over again, the same worry, the same stressor, if you just write it down, there's something about that just makes you not have to loop it anymore.
Yeah, it's like you can let it go because, it's recorded somewhere.
Yeah, I could go back and pick this loop back up if I want to. I don't have to keep on trying to remember it and not let it go.
Yeah.
And Marie, something you shared with us in the past, I think is so helpful to mention right here. But sometimes writing things in our journal, like we have thoughts that we don't ever want anybody else to ever read or know. And you talked about when you have a thought like that, you'll make a note on your phone. Will you tell us about that?
Well, I have an app on my phone. Let me see if I can find what it's called. It's called Notebook. Okay. But it's different than Notes. So Notebook is an app that you have to download, but it's password protected. So you make up your own password and then you just write down whatever. And a lot of times I'll use that like if I'm waiting for a doctor's appointment or I'm waiting, in the car for a kid or, just like, and I have these thoughts I can't get rid of, or it's a prayer that I don't want to write out, but I've already said it 50 times. and now I need to just write it so I can let it go. I'll write it in there. And because it's password protected, I feel like I could write whatever I want to. And it'll just die with me.
And I do like the idea of it being digital. Like one of the things I struggled with journaling was I don't like my handwriting. It's hard to read. It's hard to get, you're thinking faster than you can write.
Right.
And then I probably have 10 journals and stuff is everywhere. And then there might be a sermon note in between and a prayer list. And it's just very disorganized. So I have started doing it on the computer. And then I can just open it up and it's just easier to type than write. And it's all in one place. So, I mean, a lot of people have probably already been doing that, but that's new to me. And that has helped make it easier to want to do it.
Well, I think this is all great information. And I hope that listeners are encouraged. As kind of our last question before we get to I'm a Fan, just how long do you think it takes to go through this process? Because I think sometimes we want to rush it. We think, like Mindy, you said, well, my kids have been in school a week already. How come I'm not back knowing what to do for myself? Well, a week might not be enough time. You know what I'm saying? Maybe just share with listeners like how long it might take you to work through a mental thing. It could take months. It could take weeks. It could take days. It kind of depends. I think we're hard on ourselves a lot of times.
Well, I guess I could share with, I mentally know this. I don't like it because it's hard to know that you're in a waiting season, like we've just mentioned, and that time just has to happen. You know that time has to happen. And with moving to a new place, like my family, I know that it's going to take at least a year of doing all things new. Every season is new. Every holiday in this house is new. Everything is brand new. And so we actually have to get to the point of repeating something before it can feel somewhat more familiar. And so I know that. I know that the whole first year, everything is new. And I don't like it because I can't make it go faster. And it's not to say that after a year, all of our troubles have gone. It's just to say that the things that we're feeling right now will be better in a year because we'll know at least what to expect. But with other things, sometimes the Lord takes care of situations quickly, and sometimes He allows us to sit in it for long enough until we can truly surrender it to Him. And then even still, like there's no rhyme or reason with the Lord. I don't think we can put a time limit on Him because I feel like more and more it's just about my relationship with Him than about the thing.
I know that, like I said, if I turn to distraction or activity or things I can control, those might make me feel better temporarily, but they don't move me along really in the process to feeling better about it ultimately. So I do have to pay attention to my feelings. I can't just stuff them. Yet I feel like lately I've been sitting there too long. Like I found that I've been reading a lot about grief. There's a thing that psychologists call anticipatory grief. I feel like that's where I'm in that right now. And I've just taken a deep dive in that, and I'm reading and reading and reading all this stuff. And I think it's good to have friends that have different perspectives, because I have one friend who she's like, why are you doing that? She goes, that doesn't sound good, and other friends are like, pay attention to your feelings. And it's like, okay, I'm trying, and I just feel like I've been a little out of balance. Like they're both right. But I've been sitting too long in the grief part and just working through that and paying attention to my feelings so I can process them and move on, but not staying there so long that I just get mired down in that. And, that can lead to a dark place too. So, there's some point you have to kind of let those feelings let your faith kind of transform you so you can move on.
Right before we got on to record today, I follow Lisa Turkhurst on Facebook. And so I follow her because a lot of times she'll write like some prayers just as her status. And this was a little quote that she had that I read right before we got on, but it really fits. Let's remember as we start this new day, wherever we focus our attention the most will become the driving force of our lives. We steer where we stare. So I think that really applies because at first I might be steering towards the ground because I'm just in the bad, place. But eventually I need to lift my eyes and steer where I need to go.
Right.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you, Marie. I feel like I have to sit in that and really get sick of myself. And then it's like I wake up one day and I'm like, I am so tired of that. I am so sick of, sitting around and feeling gross and eating gross food that makes me feel gross. And like, it's like, pull yourself together,
Like, who am I?
I know. And I don't want to over spiritualize this because we all have all the feelings and all the emotions, good, bad, and ugly. But I will say that one thing that when the world and life is too hard and it's too big and it's too enormous, one thing that is helpful to me is to remember how God worked things out in the past and to remember the things that he's made better with my children in the past, with our lives in the past. And then even to start, like, I know this is silly, but like if Christian music is on or if worship music is on, like I really try to put my mind to think about the song instead of being stuck in my own head and thinking about God's character in the Bible. And I hear these words spoken in these worship songs. And if I can just start trying to practically think about his character and trying to put my eyes on him and taking them off of me, remembering who he is, it's amazing how that is a relief of the burden. Mm-hmm. Like to try to remember that he is a loving God. He is more powerful. He cares for my children. He's with them at school in the hallway. He's with them, in Tennessee. And that is something that when I sit and think about, or as I'm walking and think about, that it helps put things into perspective. Like I don't have to solve anything. It's just like, okay, who is God? Let me think about that. And then let me just rest in that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes me think about a quote that's kind of resurfaced the last day or two by Corrie ten Boom. You might have seen it. And it says, never be afraid to trust an unknown future to a known God. And so when I'm afraid, I have to ask myself, how much do I know about God? Like if I'm afraid, I need to know him better. I need to know him more. And a quote like that, like if you know Corrie ten Boom's story, she's the real deal, And I think if she can do it, I can do it.
Yeah. Right. I mean, her circumstances were infinitely harder than anything that we're going through and hopefully ever will go through, really. Just terrible. Well, I know that I feel better than when we started this conversation, and I do think that talking with friends has that magical effect. And listeners, we certainly hope that as you've listened, that you feel better too. And like I said before, we would love for you to come and find us on social media or email us at midlifematterspodcast@gmail.com. If you feel like you have things you just need to get off your chest, I think sometimes just speaking out loud serves the same thing as writing sometimes, to just get it off. But before we go, we do want to do I'm a Fan, because I don't think we've done I'm a Fan the past 2 weeks. And I know that I am anxious for some new recommendations. So let's move into I'm a Fan. All right, Mindy, what are you a fan of this week?
I am a fan of a website, Zappos, Zappos.com. Somebody told me about this. I now live in a town where I don't have easy access to like Fleet Feet. So when I need to get new workout shoes, I don't just have a store that I can run to that's in town. And so she was telling me about Zappos, that you can order shoes and they have a really easy return policy, and they'll send you other shoes and you can try them and still send them back easily. And so if they don't fit or you don't like the color or whatever. So this just happened to me though. I ordered some shoes from Zappos and they came and I didn't like the color as much in person as I thought that I would. And so I just put them straight in the box and went down to UPS, and UPS took care of it. And I've already got my return, my money back just a couple of days later.
Cool.
And so it's just a really easy website for shoes. Now, I haven't bought anything other than like my Brooks Glycerin shoes that I love to wear for working out, but they have other shoes on there. So since my first experience was so easy and enjoyable, I will be looking at their website for future purchases for shoes.
That is a really neat company. I listened to a podcast a few years ago on it, how it got started with the How I Built This podcast. And it was really interesting how Zappos got started. And they are supposed to have just a fantastic return policy and make it very easy for you.
Yes.
And I remember them saying in the podcast that when they first wanted to start this online shoes, people were like, no one's going to want to buy shoes online. People want to try them on. Now people buy shoes online all the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Here we are.
All right, Julie, what are you a fan of this week?
Well, that made me think of something kind of similar that I had a great experience with. And I guess this is a website and an app, but it's Poshmark. Have you ever bought anything?
My girls have bought things on
Yes.
Poshmark before.
I have.
Okay, well, this is the story. I have a friend who had a blouse that I loved. And it's funny because we have a lot of the same clothes and we have to call each other like, don't wear this because I'm wearing it today. And it just happens like that we just like the same stuff. Well, I just loved this blouse. And I said, where did you get it? And it was the Loft where she got it.
Right.
So I just looked on the Loft, and obviously it was a season prior, so they didn't have it anymore. So I think I Googled like the description of the blouse Loft. Well, Loft came up first, Poshmark came up second. They had that blouse in my size, and it was brand new.
Oh,
so
that's
I ordered it
awesome.
from them, and I got it. And she probably has had it a year or two.
Yeah.
I thought that was the coolest thing. And I found more than one. There was more than one blouse available.
That's great. Well, Mindy, now that's another website you can add to your online shopping.
I know, right? Stop. I'm supposed to stop shopping. But no, I had that experience, Julie, with Poshmark, and it was for Abby. There was a dress from Altered State that was like a season or two prior that she really wanted. And I found it on Poshmark, and it was such a great experience. I forgot about that.
Yeah,
I'm
so
glad
if you know
said
the
that.
brand and then you just put in a physical description, like color, the style, you'll find it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Amazing.
Yes. All right. Well, as I said before, I have kind of turned off realistic podcasts and moved to audiobooks. And I really listen to a good audiobook that other people might be interested in. I really like the author Mary Kubica, or is it Kubica? I'm not sure. It's Kubica. But anyways, she just had a new one come out called Local Woman Missing. This is basically about a couple women that go missing, a couple kids that go missing, and how the missingness all ties together, like how the crime all ties together. It wasn't like super graphic or anything like that, but it just was a good mystery. And at the end, it was at the end, I was like, oh, I should have known that was the solution, but I didn't suspect it until the end. So I love those kind of endings.
That's a sign of a good book.
Yeah. I love it when you don't really know what's going to happen, and then it makes so much sense as you turn the last page. Actually, this was as I listened to the last page. So
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, it was really good.
Maybe we can make that for book club.
Yes, I think we should. Definitely. All right, ladies, thanks for talking today. I know that we're all smiling a lot bigger.
I feel better.
I do too. It's so healthy to have a friend to talk through these things with and know that I'm not alone.
Yes.
Thanks for listening.
I look forward to talking with you next week.
All right.
Sounds great. Bye, girls.
Bye. We're so happy you joined us today. You can find the show notes for this episode at midlifematterspodcast.com. Also, please tell a friend about the show and help them hit the free subscribe button on their favorite podcast app. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at Midlife Matters Podcast. That's where we post pictures and stories about all the things we talk about in each episode. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.